to the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Bellevue School District. At this time, we will do roll call. Dima Sarafan,
Joyce Shuey.
Carolyn Watson.
Kelly Aramaki.
and we will be joined likely very soon by Directors Aris and Chu. So at this time, I believe we have a student.
We do, President Serafan. It gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce to you Miss Veronica Zobachova. She's a 7th grader at Chinook. I got confused because your principal, Mr. Peterson, was the principal at Tillicum. So she's accompanied by Mr. Peterson, principal of Chinook. Welcome, Veronica. Come on up.
Hello, Veronica. I understand you're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we will follow you as soon as you're ready.
Turn on your microphone.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you lead us now for the land acknowledgement? Thank you.
We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of the Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Duwamish and Snoqualmie tribes. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land and accept responsibility to interrupt erasure. We commit to ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance.
Thank you. So this is your time to give us your update as a student. So take it away.
I'm here today to talk about student attitudes and teacher and school district entertainment of that. In recent years, I know that from personal experience and from experience of friends and family that student attitudes have declined negatively. And it's caused to create a school environment that doesn't feel like I'm learning anything. It feels like I go to school every day just to have kids interrupt class and teachers entertain that. When kids don't do their homework, when kids don't listen in class, they get the same amount of validation that I do, and it causes an extreme burnout in the students who really want to do something and create something of themselves. I think that as a school district altogether, we should work on improving student attitudes by teachers not entertaining that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so at this time, I want to just give some acknowledgements. We have many, and so we acknowledge that this is the National Native American Heritage Month, that November 6th through 10th is National School Psychology Awareness Week, that November 7th was Election Day. November 9th today is the end of our first quarter of our school year. November 11th is Veterans Day. November 12th is Deepavali and Diwali. November 13th is World Kindness Day. November 13th through 17th is American Education Week. November 15th is Education Support Professionals Day. November 15th is also American Recycles Day. November 23rd is the National Day of Mourning. So too is November 23rd, Thanksgiving holiday. So we acknowledge all of those events. At this time, I ask for a second to my motion to approve tonight's agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please say
Aye.
Aye.
aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Okay, hearing no opposition, the motion carries, and we move now to the consent agenda. I ask for a second to my motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Seconded.
Okay, is there any discussion about tonight's consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Okay, the motion carries and the consent agenda is approved. I turn now to our superintendent, Dr. Aramaki, and ask him for his update.
Great. Thank you, President Serafan. Happy to give my superintendent update for today. I also want to say welcome to everybody who's here. It's always great to have so many people at the board meetings. Thank you for showing up. Thank you especially to all the kids who are here. Let's go ahead and go to the first slide. The first thing I'd like to do is congratulate. We had an election on Tuesday, and I want to say congratulations to Carolyn Watson, who was reelected to school board, and also to Phil Block, who is a director-elect for District 1. I think Phil is here. There he is, Phil. And then to Monica Webster, who couldn't be here tonight, but she is our director-elect for District 4. If we could give them a big round of applause. We just appreciate their service on the school board for the leadership that they provide to our community. Next slide. For all the community, just again, a reminder that we are about to embark on a strategic planning process. We're kicking off the next 100 years in our district by creating a new 5-year strategic plan. And so if you're interested in participating, we're looking for kids, we're looking for staff, and we're looking for families and community members. You can go to our website, bsd405.org, and look for the application there. We're trying to recruit about 30 members for this team, of which I will be on the team as well. And this team is going to engage the broader community in designing the future together. Next slide. I want to share a few key updates with you. We have ongoing things that I like to keep the community apprised of. The first one is the good news is we've hired another 3 bus drivers this past week. So thank you to all of our family and community who are out there recruiting bus drivers. It is certainly helping. We have 11 who've started training. We have 3 more on the way. Our goal is to get to 20 additional bus drivers hired. And so we are well on our way there. So thank you. And again, as I always mention, I apologize to the community for the toll it's taking on having bus routes canceled every single week. This is not a reality that we are thrilled about. We know that it has a huge impact on our students. And we are thankful for our bus drivers, the ones who come day in and day out to bring our kids to and from school. Oftentimes we forget how important bus drivers are, except for times like now. When we don't have them, we realize that they are the first people in the district that kids see in the morning. They're the last people that kids see before they get home. They set the tone for the day, and we just appreciate them so much. So thank you, and a shout out to our bus drivers and to the community. Help is on the way. We should start to see a return to normalcy soon. We sent out an email today about a couple of incidents that happened on campus today, and so I just wanted to just call that out. The first one was we had some police activity at Newport High School this morning. That was a stolen U-Haul truck that ended up somewhere around the Newport campus, and the police were there to look for the people who had stolen the truck. So I just wanted people to know that that is what happened at Newport this morning. We also had a disruption during the drop-off at Tillicum Middle School this morning, where a parent had disrupted the drop-off time. So one thing I'll say is the police are investigating that situation. We had heard concerns that there were anti-Semitic activities that were happening today in our schools. We're letting the police do the investigation of both incidents, but for the one particularly at Tillicum Middle School, we don't have reason to believe that it was anti-Semitic, but we're letting the police determine that, and then we will update the community as we learn more about that. Related to that, this is sort of my last key update in this category. Our community is struggling right now, and so the whole world is going through extremely hard times. It certainly is impacting our country, and we know that our families here in Bellevue are so impacted, and I can feel it in the conversations I have with parents and with kids every single day. And so there's just a few things that I want to talk about just related to what happens and how we manage things during times of trial and challenge. We have such a global and diverse community that are so connected to people and regions all over the world. And so we're impacted by everything that happens locally and globally. There's 4 things that I want to mention. The first one is safety, and providing kids with a learning environment that is free from discrimination is our number one priority. And so we are absolutely committed to providing a community and an environment where our kids can go to school and not have to endure discrimination. That includes anti-Semitism, that includes homophobia, Islamophobia, racism. There's a lot of things that are happening in this world, and we're increasingly polarized. And our kids are the ones. I mean, they have to endure so many things, but our commitment to the community is to work towards a community where kids can come to school free from discrimination. We are not anywhere perfect around that, but that is our commitment to kids. The second thing I wanted to mention is we must hold to our vision of the beloved community. And so you may have heard me talk about that before, but Dr. King popularized this term, beloved community, which is a community where people care about each other and where there is no hunger, there's no poverty, and there's no hatred. And so we uphold the vision of the beloved community in Bellevue. And something that we're learning every single day is that it is very, very hard to live up to that vision. But as long as we as a community can agree that that's what we're aiming for, then we have something that we can fight for together. The third thing is, as part of our work towards creating creators of their future world, you hear that tagline all the time, to affirm and inspire each and every student to learn and thrive as creators of their future world. We hold up this concept of global competency. And global competency is basically, how do we prepare kids to take action to make the world a better place? And so we talked about that some last year. We're going to be talking about that into the future, but global competency is basically the skills for kids to understand the world that they live in, the good and the bad. Two, to recognize that there are multiple perspectives, that they have a perspective that is developed from their family, from their community, their culture, the region in which they grew up. But other people have perspectives that might be similar, might be different. Nobody has the exact same perspective. And it's important that our kids learn that there are multiple perspectives. The third thing around global competency is that we teach kids how to communicate effectively. And that's not just speaking, it's not just writing. Communicating effectively is being able to communicate with people who are different from them. As adults, we're all learning how to do that every single day, but that's something that we want our kids to learn while they're in school. And then the last thing around global competency is knowing about the world, understanding multiple perspectives, learning how to communicate well. We want our kids then to go out and take action to make the world more peaceful and better for themselves, for their friends, and for others. And so global competency is something that is important to us in the Bellevue School District. It's a big part of our work to raise creators of their future world. And we're going to talk about that continually in the future. And then the last thing I'll mention around what we do and what we hold to during times of trial and challenge is we must remember that we are a learning organization. So the Bellevue School District is not just a place where kids learn, it's a place for us as adults to learn as well. And the reason why that's important is because in a learning organization, we're not held to perfection and we don't hold each other to perfection. We do our best, we make mistakes sometimes, and then we learn from our mistakes. We expect that and we teach that to our kids, and we expect that and we teach that to the adults in the system. And as I know as a parent, and I know as many of you who have kids, our kids are teaching us all of the time. And so my hope is that for the Bellevue School District, that we can become that kind of community where we're constantly learning from each other and teaching each other at the same time. Next slide. I'm excited to talk about our partnership with the Bellevue Schools Foundation tonight. We have friends from the Bellevue Schools Foundation who are here. And in a second, I'm going to invite them up to come and talk with us. But the Bellevue Schools Foundation is one of our key partners who basically their role is to mobilize the community and provide support to the school district. And they do such a remarkable job in doing that. And when I say the Bellevue Schools Foundation, what I'm really talking about is all of the parents and the families and the community members and the businesses who basically come together to contribute funds and time in order to bring the very best education and enrichment to our schools. They have been incredibly welcoming of me as I've started as a superintendent. They've raised money to help me launch joy and innovation in our system, and I'm so thankful for them. And so what I'd like to do right now is to invite Juliet Buder, who's the executive director of the Bellevue Schools Foundation, to come on up. And I think they have a presentation for us. And then you can invite anybody else up that you want, Juliet. Okay. All right. So if you're affiliated with the Bellevue Schools Foundation, please come on up and join Juliet.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Aramaki. We are really happy to be here, and we're even more excited to share with you a physical representation of our support this year. So we are contributing $979,000 to the Bellevue School District this year, and that is the culmination of thousands upon thousands of volunteer hours. That's the culmination of hundreds upon hundreds of individual and corporate donations. And we would like to increase this by 100% or 200% in the years to come. And we have been so inspired and excited by your leadership, Dr. Aramaki. And we recently met with all principals within the district because we believe there's an untapped potential in our community. Right now, 4% of our community is giving. If we can increase that to 14 or 24%, we can double this gift to you all in the years to come. So we believe that this funding is critical for teachers who don't have any other place to turn to make their ideas a reality. We believe this funding is critical to you all as district leaders to make sure that you all have the support and resources to bring the community along with you. We believe it's critical to our students who would not have mental health resources or fentanyl prevention resources and Narcan without it. And we are committed to doing everything we can to continue to bring you the best of what we can offer financially. So we appreciate everything you've done. And we ask everyone in this room, if you are not sure how you're benefiting from the foundation, or if you're interested in what we do, please get to know us. This is one of the best ways you can do something tangible for your community. Every single dollar we will invest back into your students and families and into the district. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's give them a hand. Yeah. Before you sit down, I'm going to have the board, let's stand behind them and we're going to take a photo with them so that we can kind of just memorialize our partnership right on the step right above them. That'd be great. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. If you go to the next slide, it's sort of related to our BSF announcement. One of the things that I asked the Bellevue Schools Foundation was to help partner with me to bring joy to the school district, because coming out of the global pandemic, a theme across schools is just people have been so tired, and it's been a challenge coming back in person and trying to recover. And there's just been so many things that people have been struggling with coming out of the pandemic. And the good news is, as I've talked to educators, I've been hearing from across the system that people feel like this year is starting to feel more normal. And so it's really great to hear people talk about that. But one of the ways that we're going to inject joy into our school system is the BSF is donating $20,000. So part of that almost $1 million, $20,000 of it is going to be to inject joy into our kindergarten classrooms. And so I'm happy to announce that between the Bellevue Schools Foundation and Kids Quest, which is a kids museum here. Some of you may have been there before. I see some nodding in the back. There should be no more joyful place in the entire world than in a kindergarten classroom. Am I right? Yeah. So Kids Quest is going to do a classroom visit with hands-on learning for every kindergarten class in the Bellevue School District this year. Kids Quest is going to provide a paid field trip for every ECAP preschool classroom to go to the Kids Quest Museum this year. Kids Quest, they're donating a family pass for every kindergarten family to go to Kids Quest this year. And then so that we don't leave the adults out, Kids Quest is going to host a party / social team building event for kindergarten and preschool kids in January. And so I just want to thank Putter and the folks at Kids Quest, and I want to thank the Bellevue Schools Foundation for the $20,000 to make this happen in order to bring joy to our kindergarten kids. All right, and my last announcement is about the school board. So I am really honored and proud to sit with incredible individuals here next to me. Being a school board director is not an easy job. They certainly don't make very much money doing it, or any.
It's volunteer.
But it's but they are a group of people who love this school district. They love this community, and they're willing to sacrifice time with family and doing their own other things in order to serve the community. It is not an easy job to lead the school district, and they do it so incredibly well, even through the most challenging of times, and especially like I think coming out of the global pandemic and leading well. I cannot imagine a stronger, more impressive group of people. And so together, the 5 of these people sitting next to me have been awarded a School of Distinction Award from WASDA, which is the State Association for School Boards. And so I just want to recognize the excellence of the 5 people next to me and the leadership that they provide to the Bellevue School District. Okay, and that's my report.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Aramaki, for your update. And just to be clear, yeah, it's free. We work for free. Make no mistake, we're not taking any money from the district. It's a volunteer position. And we now go to public comment. So this is the time that in our meeting when we receive public comment. And so some of you have come many times. I'm going to go ahead and read a high level of the public comment rules, but for any of you who are speaking, make sure you have looked at the public comment guidelines above. I'll give you a high level, which is that this is one of the ways you can convey your thoughts or your concerns to the board. You can also do that by email, and you can reach us at board@bsd405.org. And just remember that you can also leave a voicemail. We're very grateful to get your public comment. We appreciate the thoughtful input of our community. We limit the total amount of time in most of our meetings to about 20 minutes for public comment. And that means 2 minutes for each of the 10 people who are picked randomly. We listen to all of your comments. We generally don't respond. And we just want you to know that because we are listening intently. There's some rules around just the decorum. We expect all of our speakers to engage in a civil manner and not engage in any form of communication that's identified as unacceptable in our rules, and that includes slander and libel, invasion of privacy, obscenities, harassment, intimidation, bullying, or discrimination. We also can't accept public comment on pending investigations that involve student discipline or allegations of employee misconduct, or allegations of discrimination or harassment. And that's to preserve our ability to hear any appeals. So back again to my initial point, we're very thankful for your public comment, and we will be listening very intently, but generally not responding in this setting. So at this time, I ask Executive Director Harrison to let me know who the first person will be.
Thank you, President Serafan. We have our maximum number of speakers tonight. We have 10, and interesting, they are all in person here in the room. So speakers, you can see your names in front of you on the screen. Once the speaker in front of you is up, if you could get ready to make your way to the podium, it'll just make us move a little bit more quickly. So the first speaker is Drew Danielson.
It's almost like sitting in the classroom chair of the
Yeah, going back to kindergarten
Yeah.
class. Yeah. So my name is Drew Danielson. Thank you, board, for listening to me out today. I got 2 minutes. I'll try to make sure I stay under that. What I want to do today is draw your attention to the after effects of school closure. I wanted to note the higher level of diversity at Tillicum Middle School. I will claim that Tillicum students are far more heterogeneous population. The kids have more varied backgrounds. There are populations within Tillicum from the Mandarin dual language program immersion, Spanish immersion, specialized behavior programs in the Cascade program, in addition to all the neighborhood elementary students. If Tillicum were to close and those kids with their different backgrounds were to move into a new school, they would be injected into a fairly homogeneous population. They'd be different. They might not fit in with their new classmates. The success of assimilation depends on the level of acceptance by the host culture of an incoming group. And this is not a known strength of kids this age. This is usually how bullying starts. Closing Tillicum would be closing the school with the most diverse set of resources and students. Tillicum is the most diverse racial, ethnic, and cultural middle school in our district, and in many ways is the best representation of the diversity of the city of Bellevue that we just talked about. Studies have shown that it's easier to assimilate into a heterogeneous culture as there are inherent social discrepancies, which means that Tillicum would be the best candidate to minimize friction of the integration of a new cohort of children into the school. Those social discrepancies allow for tolerance and acceptance, and that should be considered by the board when making a decision on school closures. Just to kind of put a pin in it, the district should consider the likelihood of success of assimilation and the impact it will have on the transition for the kids as they integrate into their new schools. Perfect timing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Parkins? And we can just have the next person who sees their name go ahead and kind of come up to be ready. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am a Tillicum parent, and I'm tired of the ugliness that the school consolidation studies bringing out in our communities. Something needs to change. Please do not make decisions based on the schools that scream the loudest or have the most signs. More disenfranchised populations should not be drowned out. Please get insight from all families, and let's get creative. How about bringing in new people to the district with creative programs, reading programs, Montessori, IB starting in 7th. Let's fill classroom space with new faces. And let's find new savings. Serving AL students in their middle schools that are closest to their elementary school could save funding on transportation while still keeping them in their cohorts and providing their academic needs. Tillicum's central location, not in close proximity to any other middle school, makes it an ideal place for welcoming new students. Our location is in one of the most affordable neighborhoods. Right now, many students slated for ODL live less than a mile from Tillicum and even go to the elementary school next door. Transporting students away from the middle school in their backyard, is this logical? The neighborhood also has several supports in walking distance, the library, Sabina, and the new Boys and Girls Club Center. We house multiple programs, Cascade, Resonance, ISA, and Mandarin. Change disproportionately impacts 80+ special ed students, while also BSCD is investing in a lot of language programs, and Tillicum has figured out how to house 2 and ready to house more. We're experienced and have proven successful in various diverse programs under one roof, where the student population is unified, not separated or keeping to themselves. Please keep Tillicum open and truly consider it if consolidation is the only way to solve our financial problems. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is it Ilan Lanz? Okay, thank you.
Luckily enough, I lost my voice yesterday, so I'll make my best.
No problem. We can hear you.
Thank you. Members of the board, today is the 85th anniversary of the Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, a somber date in history when state-sanctioned murders and attempted annihilation of the European Jews began in full view in Austria and Germany during the Nazi era. I'm here today because I'm concerned about the safety of my two children, because they're current students in the Bellevue School District Elementary School. Since October 7th, the massacre that took place in southern Israel, there has been a sharp rise in anti-Semitism, anti-Israel, and anti-Zionist hate directed towards Jewish and Israeli individuals. It is here in Bellevue, it is here in Seattle, in the US, Europe, and other countries. As a Jewish Israeli individual and as a US resident, I'm genuinely concerned. I fear for my family and my own personal safety. Since October 7th, parents have reported multiple incidents of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment across multiple schools and age groups in the BSD. Remaining silent is not an option. Therefore, I find myself in this position where I must be a leader, even when I would rather retreat and grieve privately. It is an especially challenging burden because as a Jewish individual, there is a pervasive feeling that the world often remains silent when my community is under attack. Members of the board, immediate and effective action must be taken. The Jewish community is feeling unsafe. District must ensure safety for all its students. We need a school environment that is free from discrimination and without any political biased views. There should be zero tolerance for anti-Semitism, hate, harassment, bullying, from any religion, racial, cultural, or national background or minority groups. This policy should apply both to students and staff alike and must be enforced. The
Sir,
community wants to see your actions
your
and
time's up.
partner with you to restore our trust and sense of safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
I stand here today as a concerned mother, deeply troubled by the recent surge of anti-Semitism and its impact on my children's well-being and the safety of Jewish kids in our district. My own kids, who came from an Israeli and Jewish background, have been subject to repeated discriminatory harassment ever since the horrifying terror attack on Israel. The harassment included aggressive name-calling, derogatory comments, and the display of Nazi symbols. It reached a point where my kids were too afraid to go to school due to this hostile environment and had to stay home. Many of these harassing kids have been exposed to violent messaging while attending the pro-Palestinian rallies. Calls like "Gas the Jews" or "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free" are inherently anti-Semitic, and they are calling for violent eradication of Israel and the Jews. These messages should stay out of school. I've reached out to the school multiple times, urging them to use these incidents as opportunity to educate the students on respect each other and care for each other, especially during this challenging time. Unfortunately, my concerns were not addressed until I had to file a formal complaint with the district. It raises the question, why is anti-Semitism being treated differently than other forms of discrimination? My request is simple. I'm not asking you to take sides in a political debate. I'm asking you for proactive education. Many students lack the understanding of the complexities involved. They learn history through twisted TikTok videos that are full of lies, hate, and propaganda. And as an educational institute, it is your obligation to correct it. We need a dedicated and proactive education on anti-Semitism. We also need the school district to take a strong stance against anti-Semitic incidents and against terror. And no, we should not apologize for it because that implies tolerance. Thank you.
Greetings, I'm SJ, and our family moved to Bellevue from Europe so our daughters could avail of the best education we could find. We had a choice to live anywhere in the US, and BSD was the leading factor in our choosing Bellevue and the AL program. Our young daughter was part of the elementary school consolidation, and she suffered from a loss of friends, and we have been forced to adapt to our routine to attend Woodridge. As a result, the AL elementary classrooms at Woodridge are overcrowded, going from 24 students last year to now over 30 students this year. This has increased teacher burden, student dissatisfaction, and parent anxiety. So consolidation is not without consequences. As a reminder, AL students are designated to receive special services by Washington state law. How will BSD comply with said law if they continue to dilute the AL services? I'm here to ask the following before consolidation, that we consider the following 4 points. Number 1, since parents are willing to discuss and help BSD resolve issues and find alternative solutions, have you looked at all other austerity measures, including cutting back on non-instructional staff? Number 2, the Seattle Public School District has erased, diluted, and/or diminished their highly capable program. Will BSD AL program be up for a similar fate? How will you provide AL services, resources, and experienced educators if the 600 AL students at Odell Middle School are split up? Can you commit to take the AL program off the table in the consolidation discussion? The best aspect of the AL program for our girls has been the cohort of students and the quality of experienced and trained teachers. However, we believe adequate training is not always provided, which hurts and diminishes the quality of instruction and the attractiveness of the program to families looking for the best education for their kids, like we had done when we moved here. What has been done in that regard, and how do you adequately support and train your educators so that they can effectively instruct our children? A strong public school educational system is fundamental to
That's time,
democracy.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Loud. I don't know if I need the mic. Okay, I think you can all hear me. Dr. Aramaki, board, I am here to say thank you. Thank you for succeeding in creating the type of community where my child is absolutely thriving. My name is Sean Patch, and I'm the parent of a 6th grader at Tillicum. This is our first year in the Bellevue School District. We've been in private schools up until now. And watching this transition, I didn't know what to expect. And she came home so excited. And as I pressed about what made her situation so great, she couldn't help but keep ranting about the community and the connectedness that she felt. Tillicum and the students accepted her for who she is, allowed her to thrive, and she talks about the diversity that's present at that school. That is because of the wide range of programs being offered, dual language, both in Mandarin and Spanish, as well as the special needs students. We all recognize the importance of a diverse community, and I'm here to let you know it is working, and I'm here to say thank you. I've been a middle school teacher for 14 years. I know firsthand how challenging the task is before you. And consolidation, while not easy and certainly not something I am hopeful for, I don't want, I recognize the fact that despite where we are, resources are limited and tough decisions have to get made. I'm here for the first time ever at a school board meeting because I went to my first PTA meeting on Monday. I've never been to these things, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my 6th grader coming home and saying, upon finding out about the school consolidation, she says, "Dad, what are we gonna do?" We're speaking up. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Peggy. I have a daughter in Thai 7th grade. I also have a little one attending Somerset Elementary in the 5th grade. As we all know, Bellevue is one of the most educational funded areas in Greater Seattle. It's hard to believe that our school district is facing such a significant financial deficit. That's a shame. How come it wasn't addressed earlier and better? Last year, BSD closed down 2 elementary schools, but did not create a better educational environment for our students. It made things worse. It hurt our communities and families. For example, due to the consolidation, Somerset currently has over 700 students. As a result, 2 5th grade classes have been moved to portable classrooms. This raises safety concerns like school shootings. It becomes inconvenient for students to use the school facilities. Even for Somerset PTSA, booking rooms for after-school programs has become a considerable challenge due to the lack of available space in the school. This year, TIE faces similar issues with a growing student enrollment that's now over 900 students. Most teachers have a heavier workload than last year. Middle school is a critical time for our students' lives. Our students can broaden their horizons, form lasting connections, and develop meaningful friendships. The closure of a middle school would result in the separation of friendship that have taken years to cultivate. We must avoid it at all costs. Building a community and a school takes the efforts of several generations, yet it can be easily dismantled. Please do not close any more schools. Thank you.
Members of the board, I'm a father of 3 Jewish students, currently and former, stand before you today as a concerned member of this community, urging our collective commitment to ensuring the safety and well-being of all of our students, especially our Jewish children. Our schools should be sanctuaries of learning, understanding, and acceptance, where every child feels safe and valued. Regrettably, the steep rise in anti-Semitism reminds us of the pressing need to address this issue and take proactive measures to protect our Jewish students, as well as other students of faith, race, and color. I want to draw your attention to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, a powerful tool that helps us protect our students against anti-Semitism and religious discrimination. It empowers us and takes decisive action against anti-Semitic incidents, sending a clear message of that hatred and prejudice have no place within the walls of our schools. We must empower our educators with the tools and resources necessary to recognize signs of discrimination and intervene effectively, creating a supportive atmosphere where all children can thrive academically and socially. Students, teachers, and parents need to feel confident that their concerns will be taken seriously and addressed promptly. By swiftly addressing instances of discrimination, we send a strong message that bigotry has no place in our schools, reinforcing our commitment to create a safe and inclusive environment for everybody. In conclusion, let's stand united against anti-Semitism and bigotry and all forms by educating our students, empowering our educators, collaborating with the community, and implementing clear reporting mechanisms. We can ensure that our schools remain safe havens where every child, including Jewish students, can learn, grow, and thrive without fear. I implore you to prioritize the safety and well-being of our Jewish students. Thank you.
I'd like to start by sharing my gratitude to Bellevue Boys and Girls Club, who have been partnering with BSD to provide before and after care to students for many years, including during remote learning. In 2021, the district closed our own Boost extended learning program and outsourced before and after care to Right at School. Last school year, Right at School struggled to staff their programs and had temporary site closures before closing permanently on October 24th at my children's school and others. At that point, Boys and Girls Club added additional capacity at their downtown Bellevue Club and on-site programs to meet the needs of our families. When Right at School opened at only 7 schools this year, Boys and Girls Club again stepped up to add capacity and locations. Despite this incredible partnership, there's still a gap in service before school care. As my youngest will be starting kindergarten next year, this gap is weighing heavily on my mind. While my 9-year-old can get up and off to school by herself in the mornings, my 5-year-old will not be able to. The transition from extended day preschool with a 7 a.m. start time to kindergarten with an 8 a.m. start time will be a challenge for my family that we did not face for my oldest when we had before school care available at our school. As you may know, many educators in the district report to work between 7 and 7:30 a.m., and so do many others. Lack of access to before school care leaves many of us juggling kids and work in the mornings, and many children unsupervised. A few weeks ago, Dr. Aramaki mentioned one way to address the current challenge with transportation is to look at changing school start and end times, which could widen the gap. I ask you to please consider in this process the impact that this may have on the childcare and transportation needs of families in the district, and include Boys and Girls Club in the process so they can continue to partner with us to provide this necessary service to all families at all schools. Additionally, I ask you to look at the partnership with Right at School and assess whether it is still serving our community. Thank you.
My name is Ariel, and I'm a sixth grader at Highland, and I'm more than a test score. Mi nombre es Ariel, y estoy en sexto grado at Highland, y soy más que un resultado de examen. Highland is one of the most diverse schools in Bellevue, with so many different cultures and religions. Did you know that students at Highland speak over 36 different languages? Highland es una de las escuelas más diversas en Bellevue, con tantas diferentes culturas y religiones. ¿Sabías que los estudiantes de Highland hablan más que 36 lenguajes diferentes? I'm more prepared for the world because of the diverse community at Highland. Estoy más preparada por el mundo por la comunidad diversa de Highland. One of the best things about Highland is how it includes everybody. We have unique programs like the Pacific program and the dual language program, but we are one Highland community. Una de las cosas mejores sobre Highland es cómo incluyen a todos. Tenemos programas únicos como el programa Pacífico y el programa dual de lenguaje, pero somos una comunidad de Highland. As our district is going through the difficult decision of maybe closing a middle school, there's a lot of negative talk about Highland, and I want everyone to know that I love being a student at Highland. Como nuestro distrito está yendo a través de la decisión dificultada de tal vez cerrar una escuela intermedia, hay mucha charla negativa sobre Highland, y quiero que todos sepan que amo ser una estudiante de Highland. If the decision is made to close a school, I know that myself and other Highland students would be happy to welcome students from other schools into our community. Everyone should have the chance to be a Highland Eagle. Si la decisión está hecha de cerrar una escuela intermedia, sé que yo y otros estudiantes de Highland serían felices de bienvenir a estudiantes de otras escuelas a nuestra comunidad. Todos deberían tener la oportunidad de ser un águila de Highland. Thank you for your time. Gracias por tu tiempo.
Thank you to all of our public commenters, and that brings to conclusion our public comment period. President Seraphin.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we're going to be moving on to the next item of our agenda. I just wanted to thank each and every person who spoke tonight and who took the time to come here. We very much appreciate it. So thank you to all of you. You are welcome to stay for the remainder of our meeting or for any part of the meeting. We also understand that you may leave, so it's completely up to you, but thank you again. Executive Director Harrison, are you ready to move on to item 5, excuse me, for board business?
I am, President Seraphin.
Yeah, sure. We're going to go ahead and just stand in recess for 2 minutes as the room clears out. We'll start at 5:21. Okay, this is the problem with recess, though. Okay, we're going to start in 1 minute. Mr. Harrison, are you going to be ready to start in
I am
a
ready.
few seconds? Okay, thank you. And then perhaps Ms. Namila, we can decide what to do on, I guess, on the door, but
Yeah, thank you. We're going to
All right.
start with policy 6210. George, if you could please pull up the marked up version, that would be fantastic. And just for the record, I just want to provide a little bit of context. As you know, board, current policy 6210 requires board approval for purchase of capital outlay items when the aggregate cost requires a formal bid in accordance with state law. The board reviewed these proposed revisions at the October 16th pre-meeting planning session, first reading October 19th, and then again on Monday's pre-meeting planning session, you saw these proposed revisions for a third time. There have been no changes. George, I'm just wondering if you could switch to the marked up version would be helpful. That's the clean version. And I just want to make one clarification. It should be on the, that's okay. We'll go with the clean version. Yeah, that's fine. There are no changes since you saw this on Monday. The highlighted yellow section, line 24, is a change since first reading. So that's been highlighted for the public. What I do want to draw your attention to is there was discussion about potentially changing the amount of the proposed policy revision to maintain your authority of regarding the purchase of capital outlay items, but providing additional oversight authority to approve the procurement of goods and services that are unrelated to capital outlay costs with a contract value of more than $1 million. And we talked about the possibility of changing that amount. We talked about the possibility of changing that amount to $2 million. There are no changes from what you saw on Monday. And the reason for that is we took a look over the last number of years to see what we were actually talking about in terms of the POs that would come before you if the threshold was at the $1 million level. And just for context, in any given year, purchase orders under 500,000 number around 1,600. So we're talking about a lot of purchase orders in a year. If you look at the number of purchase orders of value between 500,000 and $1 million, it's 8. If you get to the 1 million threshold, between 1 million and 2 million, last year there were 9 POs that would have come to you for approval if these proposed revisions were in place. And the kind of purchase orders are things like curriculum. So for example, last year, Imagine Learning is the vendor. It was the illustrative math curriculum. Maxim Healthcare is an organization agency that provides staff, contract staff like paraeducators and behavior specialists. EduPoint Educational is another vendor for a student information system. Micro K-12, another vendor that provides provides elementary school laptops. So those are the kind of purchases that or kind of purchase orders that you see in the $1 million range. Between $2 and $3 million last year, there were only 3 purchase orders that would have come to your attention if we went with the $1 million threshold. So what we're suggesting is that we leave it at the $1 million threshold because if as Dr. Aramaki indicated on Monday, the purpose of a threshold is for oversight. If only 3 purchase orders come to you for oversight, it doesn't really feel like much oversight. But if it was at the $1 million level, as we initially suggested, it would be in the neighborhood of 12 to 13 purchase orders a year that we would come to you with for your approval. So I'll stop there and see if you have any additional feedback or questions.
Well, I appreciate your presentation. It anticipated many of the questions, I know. I had, and I think we're largely discussed on Monday, and I see that there's, as you said, there's no change in the edits from what we saw on Monday.
Correct.
I have no questions. I'd like to see if any board director does. Okay, I think Vice President Shuey has a question, and then, okay, we
Okay.
can move towards any others and then take a vote.
All right. Thank you for putting that analysis together. That's helpful to know how many purchase orders at the different levels. So thank you. And to know what they were for, that's all helpful. I'll reiterate my concern that we have a lot of topics to cover for the school board, a lot of really substantive, meaty, important things to talk about. And my concern is that we already have a budget approval for these amounts. And so to dig into issues that we can raise in more direct ways than through looking at purchase orders is something that I continue to have reservations about. One of my questions on Monday was, is this something that district staff really wants? Because I can support it if it's something that you guys are looking for, but as a conceptual matter, where we've already approved the budget, where, for example, armed police officers was something that was less than $500,000 that was substantive, we could talk about that without it being within the context of the budget. And so I guess the question again is this something, because I'm not inclined to in favor of it, but I am wanting to know, is it something that you want?
Okay, why don't we hear from, I think Director Ars has a question as well, and then perhaps we can hear from Dr. Armaki or and Director Chu does. And why don't we get all the questions and perhaps we can have a
And I
response.
think there's like, we're all using our electronic hands.
Oh,
for the help.
okay.
Yeah.
I've got multiple things on my screen, so I'm not seeing it. Director Ars.
Thank you very much for the additional detail and the analysis. I understand that the difference between the 1 million and 2 million, and I see why the 1 million sounds like a better number. I don't have any suggestions as far as changes are concerned. I do want to reiterate the idea of putting this back on the docket for to revisit to see whether that 1 million still stands, or if we need to increase it or decrease it at a later time, maybe in a year, because as you know, especially at this point, I do think the 1 million does make sense given how our community feels that we should be digging deeper into how to save money. Maybe we're not using our money wisely without the consolidation. I know this has been a concern that's been brought to us. And so I think for this year, it makes sense. But in a year from now, I wonder we should reconsider and or dig into it a little bit more and have a conversation at that time. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think I think it's Director Watson who's next. So based on the hands, which I had missed before.
I really appreciate the data. It went by kind of fast. I thought you first said there were 9 over 1 million, and then you said there'd be 12 or 13 over 1 million.
Yeah, let me clarify. There were 9 between last year, 9 between 1 million and 2 million, 3 between 2 million and 3 million, and only 1 in excess of 3 million.
Okay, so that's how that adds up. I actually would appreciate this because I have felt, for the whole time I'm on the board, as I said before, I know about staircases and railings because they come before the board, but I don't know about the curriculum we're buying. So I would appreciate this.
Thank you.
Director Chu.
Thanks. Yeah, I have a question and a comment. So, John, thanks for the data. Helpful. It seems clear that staff has evaluated this to determine if it is feasible and reasonable to present to us. So I feel confident that there's, a comfort zone there in doing this work. I also agree that with Jane that we should be reevaluating this. Like, let's put it out there. Let's see how it works. But in reality, the goal is to change the way we do oversight of financial significant decisions that have impact on kids. And we want to make sure that we're increasing the visibility and the oversight for the decisions that get even closer to the things that impact our kids. And as Kelly pointed out last in our discussion on Monday, this might or might not accomplish that. It has a chance to get us a little closer, but there may be other criteria. So the trigger might not be more than or less than $1 million, we might come up with a different trigger. The question that I have, and I want to put on the table, is one of the things that motivated us to talk about this was when collective bargaining agreements, when MOUs are negotiated, in general, the board doesn't need to be part of minor adjustments that are part of the operating agreements. But when the MOU is substantive to the point of like impacting the basic education of every student in the district, then it is time to bring some level of oversight and visibility into that. So as written, would this trigger the action and oversight for that, or is that being handled in a different way? How does that fit into this? Because that was part of the motivation.
Yeah, it's actually that collective agreements, et cetera. Well, the short answer is no, because these are purchase orders from the budget already approved. Something like a collective agreement negotiation, we would, budget for that kind of and set the budget likely after the fact. And there is another policy that's probably more relevant.
Yeah, it's on the list and it's coming. It's 5030, I think.
5020.
Or in that
Got it.
range.
Okay, so if
And
it's on the
think
list, that's great. I just
yeah,
want to
and
make
we
sure
actually-
that both together are there, because I think the
Correct.
oversight picture
Correct.
kind of up.
It just for scheduling couldn't get them all in, but it was one of the ones that through survey, everybody agreed, they thought it was relatively minor change. And I think it's listed to come up for the next board.
That is accurate.
Okay.
Great.
But I think there was questions.
Thanks.
And so I'll have maybe Dr. Armaki address, because I think Vice President Shuey had a question that may not have been answered yet.
Yeah, thank you. Just real quick, I appreciate Vice President Shuey, your comment, because I think it is very smart for us to always be mindful of the things that we bring onto the board as a responsibility, because there is limited time. And I think the goal has always been for the board to be as focused on instruction and the things that impact kids as much as possible. So I just want to appreciate the comment that you made and for asking the questions so that we are not just taking on new things that don't necessarily have impact. With that, I think in this case, I do think that this will help with oversight and transparency, particularly in time where we're talking a lot about budgets and about school funding and things like that. And so I think in this case, it would actually make me feel more comfortable knowing that we as a board and as a superintendent can kind of look at these things together, particularly for contracts that have a substantial impact on our budget. So in this case, I feel very supportive of this.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll take a vote.
Yep, it's our recommendation that you approve proposed revisions to 6210 as presented.
Okay, I move that we pass 6210. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries and the
you.
revised policy passes. So we now move to
Great.
68.
6883.
83.
Now I know there's the clean version. I won't talk about them. I won't talk about a marked up version. George, if you can there we go. All right. There's a substantial amount of yellow up there, and this reflects changes since you last saw this on Monday. So just a quick context setting. Last spring, when we went through the consolidation process of elementary schools, there was a significant amount of confusion around the term consolidation, and the current policy really speaks to permanent closure of a building. So the proposed revisions expand the intent of the policy to include consolidation, the term repurposing that the current policy was silent on, and then as a result of the conversation and feedback on Monday, the addition of school boundary changes or attendance area changes. So what you see in yellow kind of reflects that, and I'll just walk you through the changes. On line 10, and I believe this was feedback from Director Chu, we used the term utilize the critical criteria, and I think that Director Chu made the point that the critical criteria are not a planning tool. So I reframed it to say that the district will use the critical criteria outlined in procedure 0130 as a guide to define priorities, barriers, et cetera. And then
John, I just want to clarify.
Mhm.
They are a planning tool. There's not a comprehensive planning tool.
Thank you. Good clarification. Absolutely true. line 15 was the addition that this policy would also apply if the district is considering school attendance area boundary changes. In the definitions language, to remind us that there is legislation around school closure, so consistent with RCW 28A 3335020 was included, and line 22, a bit of change in the language after consultation with our legal counsel around the definition that you saw Monday. It's similar but a little more specific. So repurposing is when a school facility continues to be used for instructional purposes, but with a change in the original purpose the facility is being used for. And then the new language, of course, is lines 24 and 25. It should say attendance area, by the way, I'm missing a word. Attendance area boundary changes, which is altering the geographic attendance areas that reflect what school students are assigned to based on where they reside. Line 29 just added the attendance area boundaries. If you scroll down, George, to the considerations, these considerations, for the most part, come out of the legislation. There's a couple of additional pieces to make it a little more specific. For example, I talked about there used to be an I that was similar to F. Now they're merged together in one statement. So just a reminder that the considerations come from legislation specific to school closure. And if you could scroll down, George, please. And that's it. Those were the changes. So again, basically, a little bit of cleanup around the language and the addition of attendance area boundary changes. So any additional feedback, questions, comments? Over to you, sir, President Serafan.
Okay, I'll make a motion for the point of discussion to approve policy 6883 as revised by and presented by Executive Director Harrison. Do I have a second?
Seconded for purposes of
Okay.
discussion. Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Any questions? I will just say for me, I found that you reflected, I thought, well, the feedback you got for the last two cycles, and I'm good, although I did notice, I think it was line 24, were you missing a word, but you noted it yourself. So Director Chu, please go ahead. Did I see a hand up? No. Okay. Correct. Yes. Let's just go with right now. Who would like to speak next? Okay, Vice President Shui.
We should probably just let folks who are online know too that this is a board discussion. So although you can raise your hand online, the discussion is among the board members at the moment. Okay, so I don't think, and just as a preliminary matter, I don't think that for me, I'd be prepared to vote on this. I think I still have too many questions and substantive questions. I'll mention a couple of them. One is that like the addition of repurpose into this policy, which was originally for closures. And so it was a pretty specific policy that got expanded because of consolidation. And for community members who don't know or are new to the district, there was some thought of whether this policy was implicated by our discussions last year on consolidation of elementary schools. And I understand the legal conclusion is it wasn't, but as a district, we decided to abide by it. And so part of the reason that we're contemplating changes to this policy is to make it clear that if we have consolidation discussions, that this policy would govern that as well. Since then, we have added repurposing and also, well, I guess is repurposing, which if you look at the definition says it continues to be used for instructional purposes with a change in the instructional purpose this facility is being used for. So let's say it's a dual immersion program and we change it into a full immersion program. Is that a change? Is that a repurposing? And there's a lot of gray there that do we really intend for this policy to cover things like that? And then we also, at the very end of our discussion on Monday, I raised the issue of, well, it sounds like if the district, which is historically and across the nation, districts have had to change boundaries based on population changes and because of growth, if this policy were interpreted to include that, then that also may be too broad. And so I know that Director Chu is in favor of including, I believe, the redistricting or drawing new boundaries, but that's not something that I have had enough time to consider, and it's also not consistent with how I wouldn't want to tie the hands of districts, especially if it's not in alignment with what else is on the district's staff's plate, especially since we did with the consolidations last year, we did have staff reductions in administrative staff. And so I just feel like we're putting more and more on district staff. And so if we need to have all these hearings to change boundaries, that would concern me. So the bottom line is that I'm not prepared to vote on this. I think that there's still a lot of discussion. Those are just a couple of my concerns.
Okay, I see a question from Director Chu. Let me go to her.
Yes, my hand is up. Thank you. So I think that this is a good policy to have edited, and I think that some of the expansion is less about expansion, and it's more about being a little more precise in our language, and committing to community involvement when we're going to make substantive changes in sub-community or organization, and I think that that is a good commitment. And I wonder, we talk about burdening the district. For me, you know, for the last 13 years, engaging the community is not something I would view as a burden. However, it can be a burden both on the district and on the community. And how we do it matters a lot. And so what I'm trying to do with the comments that you're making and try to sort out is, if I take that eye to this policy, do I think there are elements of it that are too prescriptive, such that they are going to put an unnecessary burden on the community itself or on the district or both? And I don't think it is that prescriptive. I think that it's generally requiring a level of engagement of stakeholders, which is an appropriate thing to do. And it is on the board, on the district, and on our community to collectively agree what that can look like each time. And I think that's fine. And I also, to your point about whether or not this includes redistricting, John did not add that to the title, but if you look at one of the edits, I think it clearly does include redistricting.
Right, and I was saying that you just raised that at the end and we didn't get to ask questions about that.
Yeah, but I don't, like, for me, I don't think it's an expansion or an add. I think it's a clarification of the fact that if we're going to change how we organize our community, it is imperative that we do so guided by the critical criteria and with the active engagement of the impacted communities. And I think, like, making a commitment to that sooner than later and having a chance to iterate on it and edit it is a fine thing, but waiting to do it till we have it perfect. Seema, one of the things I will never forget from you over the years is don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And, like, sometimes we've got to make some progress. And I think that this is progress, and it's much less fuzzy than the policy that we had in place. And I think that policy actually did damage. It caused us to have litigious discussions with people instead of having, like, productive engagements. And I would rather see this modified sooner than later. Thank you.
I'd like to hear from Director Aris, and then if I can also from Director Watson, mainly just because I think Vice President Shuey's point of wanting more time, I'm respectful, I'm mindful that the two of us won't be here for the future board. So if the board directors here feel that they need more time, we at least know, like, I want to factor that in, that's all. So Director Aris and then maybe Director Watson.
Thanks, John, for working with us on this. I know we've gone through a few renditions. My quick question regarding this is that obviously we've added a lot of words and definitions and so on. How will this impact the procedure? And will it be significantly different, or is it just adjusting to the procedure that is already there?
Yeah, the part of this proposal was to rescind the current procedure. You may recall that the current policy, it's from the old numbering series, and it basically repeats the policy. So our view is that that we just rescind it and that we not at this time have a procedure. We could entertain having one down the road, but part of the proposal was adopt revisions as presented, and we would rescind the current procedure.
And when you say having a procedure maybe down the line,
And if it was felt that we needed, more specific operational guidance, we could consider that. But in my view, I think the policy kind of stands on its own. Not every policy has an accompanying procedure. Probably 75% do, but there's about 25% that don't.
okay. Well, that's all I need to know. I actually think I'm ready to vote on it today. So,
Director Watson?
Well, the changes to this policy makes sense to me because the policy was addressing consolidation, and we wanted to get that idea of using the critical criteria and other metrics to really study and see what the impacts were going to be. And we know that when you consolidate a school, part of what you wind up doing is changing the attendance area boundaries. And this policy says we want to hear from the community when that comes up. So to me, it makes sense to put all this together and do it now.
Thank you.
Did you have something, Vice
Yeah,
President?
I raised my hand again
Okay.
just to get another opportunity to speak. It sounds like everybody else is prepared to vote. I wanted to just say that I have continued concerns that changing boundaries, that is something that is really within the scope typically of a school district staff, is now going to not, I'm all for the critical criteria, as folks know from my past votes and remarks. And so the beginning of this policy talks about using it as a guideline and to come up with a report that talks about the impacts. And I'm all for that. But it also says that during a 90-day period following receipt of the written analysis, the board will conduct one or more hearings. And we know last year that the one hearing became multiple hearings. And it talks about like a pretty prescriptive, each hearing notice will be published once each week for 2 consecutive weeks. We've had folks challenge whether or not those hearing notice requirements were adhered to. And while I appreciate your comment, Director Chu, that we shouldn't see any of these policies as burdens on the school district, it really does come down to prioritization. And so when I think about redistricting in particular, when for example, that there is a reduction in population in one area, and you want to bring a couple, 100 more kids into that area in order to reduce classroom sizes in a more heavily burdened school, that seems like something that the school district staff should be able to do. And I don't like that this policy is saying now that we have to go through this hearing process, that it's got to be at least one. We're going to have people say that we want, more than one. We want 3, we want 7, however many are wanted in the hearing notices. And so I just see that even the fact that the amount of time that takes us to discuss this policy, other policies, the one that we just passed, where we're going to revisit it, it all takes time. And so, as I've said before, if it's not broken, although I do think that we needed to make fixes, I don't think that we should go look for things like bringing drawing boundaries differently into this. But maybe Dr. Armaki.
Yeah, I actually think it's time to, because several people have invoked essentially the impact on the district. So it may be a good time. Let's ask Dr. Armaki about impact, as well as, do you feel would you like a little more time? And if so, this could be brought. I appreciate the point from Directors Chu and Aris about just the time and the immediacy in light of consolidation. So it could be pulled forward just to 2 meetings to December 14th, you'd have a new board and done relatively soon. Do you have a preference? Because I think the points made are kind of relevance, but also it's going to have impact. So if you need a little more time or you'd like a little more time, be good to know.
I mean, I feel like I could go either way. The thing is, we're short on time, and I know this is something that we probably should get established as soon as possible, just so that we can, because it will guide our whole process for this consolidation this year. What I'll say is, I think whether or not we codify it in writing about the rebounding, I think in best practice, we probably would engage the community if we were to try to change boundaries, just because it impacts so many people. And so we would probably do that anyways. So I feel comfortable if we kept it in this policy as it's written. I'm curious, John, what you think about that.
I would concur. I mean, this is another one of those, I think, policies where you go, I've made this statement many, many times before, where current policy language doesn't reflect our practice. And that would definitely be our practice. So I would completely concur.
Can I ask, meeting the additional prescriptive things of holding the hearings and holding the, and then the hearing notices and papers and all of that part too?
Yeah, the hearing, we talked about the hearing, the hearing, we went through that process, and you're right, Vice President Shuey, that the legislation requires that, for school closure. We went through that process, and although it was, time consuming and at times, this is hard. These are tough decisions, and hearing the impact on families, et cetera, like we heard tonight. We felt that we did learn from that process, and did give community members the opportunity to address you and us about what they're feeling about what's potentially going to happen. So I think, as Dr. Aramaki said, is we're comfortable with that process, and I think it served a purpose last year.
I think it's time to take a vote. So, okay.
Just going to say, I'm not even interpreting this policy in the same way. I mean, what I see that we added that we're going to take the critical criteria into consideration and all this sort of stuff, and then we have all these considerations. But that paragraph down at the bottom, it says during a 90-day period following, I believe that falls through, doesn't that fall through from state law that you have to do these hearings and things? But
School closure,
Not
yes.
for repurposing or.
yeah, but it doesn't say here in the copy I have, we're going to do it for closure, consolidation, or repurposing.
Correct.
But it doesn't say that we're going to, we would, like, you just wouldn't do it a different way. But an administrator having to change a boundary because the number of kids in this part of the Tillicum area is different than it was, that's not under here in that paragraph.
Correct.
You can just go ahead and do it without all these hearings and things. So we're not hamstringing the administrators.
On the redistricting, that's good
Correct.
to get clarified.
That's
But
correct.
on repurposing, again, where
That's a bigger deal.
Yeah.
yeah, well, and how
That was the thinking. Yeah.
how that's described and whether that gives rise to somebody saying that we're changing. Well, sounds like we've got the votes in favor, and so go ahead, take the vote, and I'm going to probably vote against.
Okay. I think as written, all those in favor on the draft presented on 6883, all those in favor, please say aye.
Wait,
Yes.
don't you want to state the word missing?
I think he already did,
I
but so
captured it.
I thought he'd already talked about in the attendance area previously. So you want me to modify it to reflect the,
I thought that was a formality
Yeah,
that we always followed.
yeah, I mean, I think if we want to put that on line 24, including in the attendance area, otherwise drafted by Executive Director Harrison, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so 4 votes for, 1 vote against, the motion carries, and the motion's passed. Thank you.
Thank you, directors.
Okay, so we go now to the resolution for 2023-21. It's the resolution for a levy certification for the educational programs and operations levy. Our deputy superintendent's going to present on this. And do you want to discuss both this one and the transfer of funds at the same time? And
Yes, please.
If we need to separate them out, we can't, we'll vote on them individually, but perhaps you could talk about the two of them together.
Yes, please. Thank you. George, can you go ahead and put up this couple slides? Thank you. Given the time and the other events that are happening this evening, I'm happy to cover some of these other slides that aren't as focused on the resolution at a later date. But for today, what I want to say is just to provide a little bit of context of the total budget for the district. And I know that government and school financing is very confusing, and it from multiple perspectives, including what the sources of money are for us and how we can spend that money. So in school districts, we do have multiple funds, and this is where we account for that money. And for each of these funds, it has a designated use, and we are limited on how we can transfer money between these funds based on state law. So our funds are the general fund, the capital and technology fund, and the building fund. And the primary source of revenue for these funds is listed above. For our general fund, one of the primary sources is the education program and operations levy. It's sometimes referred to as an enrichment levy. This is a local property tax paid by property owners in our district, and it goes directly to the district. We also receive some state funding based on student enrollment and demographics in here, and we also receive some federal grants, but those are for designated purposes like special education and can't be used for others. The money in the general fund is what we use to pay for day-to-day operations like teachers, we buy supplies, we run human resources and the payroll department, we pay paraeducators and other school-based staff. So this is our operational budget. This is the fund where we're facing budget shortfalls due to past and forecasted enrollment declines. The Capital and Technology Fund is also primarily paid for by local taxes that come directly to the district. In addition, any lease payments that we collect, such as for 3 Points, go in here along with the proceeds from any sale of property. Revenue in this fund can only be spent on technology expenditures like people who support technology programmers, network administrators, and on building maintenance like painting or new carpet. It cannot be spent on routine maintenance like replacing air filters or mowing the lawn. And these types of expenditures are considered those types of expenditures are considered ongoing operations and must come from the general fund. Finally, we have our buildings fund. This money is spent on new buildings and additions like the one currently being done at Newport High School. Money for these projects are funded by the sale of bonds, which is long-term debt, and we collect property taxes to pay the interest and principal on that debt. We do not sell bonds immediately after a bond election. We only sell bonds as the money is going to be needed for planned and approved projects. So we have not sold all the bonds yet for the 2020 election at this point, and taxpayers are only paying for the bonds that we've already sold and are using on current projects. With that, I'm going to talk about the resolutions real quickly. So the first resolution before the board tonight is an annual resolution that gives King County authority to collect our education programs and operations levy on behalf of the district up to the amount permitted by law for the 2024 tax year. The amount that the district can collect is the lower of the amount approved by the voters, or $3,105 per student. At this time, we expect that amount to be approximately $56 million, which is the $3,105 per student. This certification will be sent to King County so that they can collect these funds along with the funds for the capital and tech levy and the bond repayment funds. As you can see, because this limit is set based on the number of students that we have, the past and anticipated decline in student enrollment does impact how much we get in this local levy. I'm going to go ahead and skip the next slide about property taxes, and I'm happy to talk about those in another time. And then the second resolution, George, this would be slide 4. The second resolution we're asking the board to approve is also an annual resolution, and we're asking the board to approve the maximum amount of money that can be transferred from the Capital and Technology Fund to the General Fund to pay for specific expenditures as required by state law. So the law does not allow us to direct charge some of the allowable maintenance expenses and technology expenses directly to the Capital and Technology Fund, even though it allows us to use that money to pay for these expenses. So first we have to pay for them out of the general fund and then reimburse the general fund with money from the capital and tech levy. So down below, you can see what some of those allowable expenditures are. The technology systems upgrades, painting of facilities, replacing roofs, carpets, etc., and other preventative maintenance projects. Again, this is an annual resolution that we ask the board to approve. Next slide, please. This table just summarizes the impact of these resolutions on students, families, / property owners in our budget. The first resolution with the collection of taxes. These are taxes that we've been collecting for a number of years. This is about 15% of our general fund revenue. If this resolution is not passed, then we would not collect the $56 million as we currently plan to do and is built into our current budget. The second is the resolution basically frees up general fund money to pay for student needs because it allows us to pay for some of our maintenance and technology expenditures with money from the capital and tech levy. And with that, I'll take any questions that you may have on either of these resolutions.
Okay, I'm going to start with Director Chu. I'm just going to go down. We'll just start at that end and go all the way down.
Thank you, Melissa. This is really a great summary for folks to have. Really appreciate it. It would be great if we can post that as well, because I noticed I don't think that those slides are posted, and that's a great resource for the community. Just to make sure that I and the rest have this crystal clear, the transfer of funds from the capital funds to the general fund is not generally transferring funds into the general fund. It is only transferring funds for approved uses.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't be put to other uses in the general fund, correct?
Correct. And we've already had to have had the expenditures. So the expenditures have had to already happen for those approved items.
And when we did have those happening, had we already been planning on pulling it out of the capital funds? Like, had you?
Yes.
Okay. So
that's already built into the budget.
Great. Thank you.
All right. If I don't know if Director Aris doesn't, I'll go to.
I don't have.
Okay.
Thank you. I would say thank you very much for the slides. Those are fantastic. And yes, I concur. Please post it.
Yes, I think if we're ready to vote, I want to just say thank you for the slides. I do find the visual very valuable. And we all know, and I can just, I think, comfortably say we continue to struggle with misunderstandings of how underfunded our district and the rest of the districts in the state are, and how that creates such a struggle for those who are on the board to try to continue to educate people. And I'm grateful for the visuals you've created here. It makes it very helpful. Dr. Armaki?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the board, because on Monday, the school board had prompted us to start with kind of budget 101 and then explain the resolutions, because it's so complicated. And especially in this time where we're talking a lot about budgets and expenditures, this is just kind of the beginning, but we're going to do more of this kind of projecting out of like how schools are budgeted and then what families can do to advocate locally and at the legislature too. So all of that is coming, but this was a good preview. Thank you, Melissa, for presenting this tonight.
Okay, so we'll start with, oh, I'm sorry.
I do have one request. The clarification that Director Chu had asked, Melissa, can you add that information to the slide before you post it? Because I think that clarification is really important for our community to understand.
Yes, I can.
Okay, we need to take a vote then. On item 5.3, which is 2023-21, it's the resolution approving the educations and programs and operation levy certification. Do I have a second to the motion to approve it? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, the resolution passes. All right, going to what's listed as item 5.4, it's 2023-2022. Sorry, 2023-2022. Transfer of funds from the capital projects funds to the general funds, as you've outlined. all those in favor of passing this,
We need a
please say aye.
second and a motion.
Yeah, okay. Figured you'd just say that.
So moved.
Okay, so moved. All right. All those, so it's been moved, it's been seconded, and now we can all vote for it. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion and resolution pass. Now we go to item 5.5, and I don't know if we have a visual for this, John, you sent us, or Mr. Harrison, you sent us a memo, but I think I'm going to suggest in the interest of time that we focus on the officer board positions, and perhaps as to the liaisons, the new board considers maybe discussing those after the initial organizational meeting, just because I have, in the interest of time, as well as knowing that sometimes that takes a longer discussion, it's valuable to have all 5 people there. It could be helpful. So that's a suggestion, but let's start with the, I guess, start with the offices and find out if there's, well, Mr. Harrison, will you be taking notes on this? Okay, you'll be presenting it. We'll go ahead and start the discussion, just in the,
Can I ask for clarification on the parameters for the discussion? Because it seems like almost an irrelevant discussion to have
without the whole board?
without the people who will actually be deciding on who wants to be what. And I hesitate to delve too deeply without the right participants present.
Yeah, I think it's just because of policy is a practical matter. Office of President and Vice President is generally, unless a policy is suspended, it's usually people who've already been on the board. So I'm happy to have us carry this over and the new board can talk about it. It's just their organizational meeting is the same day that they're sworn in by policy. So that's how it works out. And so
Is there a
you had
policy?
requested a meeting and we have it for the 17th. So that could be part of the discussion. So we could, carry this item forward and just have it for liaisons discussed in the future. And then we already have a meeting, I think, noticed for the 17th. So this could be an item that's discussed then. Is that the kind of, I'm seeing nods. So is that the consensus, or does any other board director have a different point of view?
Well, my understanding that we were going to discuss this on the 17th, but I would also like to, at this point, since we're having this discussion, is to consider having that policy which says that we have to have this discussion on this day to be revisited and so that we could revise it, because honestly, it's an odd policy in my mind. I'm wondering if it's possible for us to look at moving this date to like end of the school year. So the person who is in position are doing the full calendar school year. And,
I'm going to suggest we talk about that another time, because I think in the interest of time, 5.5 and what I hear, but I just want to confirm. So our other board directors for whom this is relevant, does anybody oppose the idea of we had a plan to convene the existing board and the 2 incomings? I think as Director Aris had initially described it in the meeting a few meetings ago, it was to know what the different positions involve. I didn't take that as suspend this, but I can appreciate why the 2 could go together. So I think that is completely fine. And if there's no opposition to that, then we can just have that discussion next Friday, essentially. So if everyone's good with that, then we will pull forward item 5.5 and move it to the meeting that's going to be scheduled as a special meeting for November 17th. Yes, which is essentially what you just suggested.
Great. I have a question, an agenda type question, because this isn't quite that. I didn't anticipate comments would be quite what they are designed to be. So I should have, but I was thinking we'd have some other discussion space. I wanted to find out in that meeting that's planned, is there space for a few other discussion items if we need to? One of the things that I think I had asked about, and I want to make sure it's available for the incoming board, is really an in-depth report on how consolidation has impacted schools, students, families, teachers, et cetera, from this last year, so we can learn from it in how we design and do things moving forward if we need to make changes at the middle school level. And I think there was some information that was provided, but I don't know if there's more intended. So I just wanted to know, is there a space for us? Could we talk about that, like the desire for such a report, or maybe there's no desire for such a report from the larger board at that meeting, just so that we just a short discussion to give you feedback on that?
Yeah, for next Thursday, for next Friday,
Yeah.
it's just going to be in preparation for the organizational meeting.
Okay.
Because we're not going to stream it, and because we're going to be at the
Okay.
WASDA conference, and I think that's a conversation, the one that you're talking about. Some in the public are going to want to hear, and it may or may not be able to make it. And so we're planning to share some of that information. We're collecting that information from the consolidated schools, but we're planning to share that in December.
Okay, that's great. I just want to note that, like, in talking to families and things, there are interesting things that I know I've learned throughout the community about how, what the experience has been like for students at schools that have been consolidated, where multiple schools have been joined together. And in those cases, I think it makes me wonder about things like whether or not, if we have to close a school, is it worth doing a phased closure such that, no new sixth graders come in next year, and then no new seventh, and that way the kids who are sixth graders are at their school. They never got moved from one school to another. But anyway, just things like that, which we can learn from based on the experiences of our families, it would be worth, but that's all. I just wanted to put that out there since we can't talk about it next Friday. Thanks for letting me throw that in.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think that concludes item, or what is scheduled as number 5 in our agenda, and we move to 6. So we pull forward 5.5, Mr. Harrison, and then I think we move to 6.
All right, item 6. So I'm going to lead this part. Tonight, we're celebrating 2 board directors, Christine Chu and Seema Seraphan, who this is, I guess, their last official meeting. But we just wanted to take some time to celebrate the leadership of Christine, of Director Chu, and President Seraphan. And so tonight, the way that we have it structured is to have the other 3 board directors take 3 minutes each to share their gratitude and praise of these 2 directors, 2 leaders. And then Eva Collins is going to help me, and we will share some comments about Christine. And then we'd love to have we'll present Christine, Director Chu, with a token of our gratitude, and then allow Director Chu to share some comments with the public. And then Eva and I will then do the same for President Seraphan, and then have President Seraphan share some comments. And so we want to take the rest of this meeting to be able to celebrate the leadership of these 2 who have been so impactful in our school district. So we have on our agenda, first up, Director Aris, and then Vice President Shui, and then Director Watson to share their gratitude and appreciation for these 2.
Okay, so I guess going first is always good because then my emotion doesn't quite build up as intensely and I won't cry. So let's see, where do I start? I'm going to say thank you very much, Christine and Seema, for being on the board. Gosh, I'm an emotional person, so I may cry anyway. There's, joining the board while we are trying to recover from pandemic, there was a lot on our plate, and it was intense and a lot to learn, and which is a lot to say for a person who's went through school for both undergrad and graduate to be in education space and pretty much focus on education all my life. Yet here I am and feeling like, oh my gosh, there's so much to learn, and still so much to learn. I can't even begin to say how thankful I am to partner with you guys and do the hard work
we found a really great superintendent who's been fantastic, as well as I know I've been very eager, or I say eager beaver, and wanting to tackle a lot of intense and in policies, and I appreciate all of you working with me on doing that, as well as the legislative work and teaching me the ropes in that space. And I hope you guys are not going way too far. I know you guys got other parts of life to deal with, but keep your phones on and your emails on, because I'm sure they'll be dragging you back in anyway. So, but thank you very much. And thank you for being on the board for so long and doing some amazing work.
Director Shuey, Vice President Shuey.
It's an honor to have the opportunity to say thank you and farewell, not goodbye, to both of you. I met Director Chu shortly after I was elected and before I started my own tenure on the board. During those calls, it was evident her passion for equity and service, and she's continued to consistently press those themes in all the time we've served on the board together. I thank you for that. I know that Director Aris has also spoken frequently and effusively about how you've shown her the ropes and been a mentor for Ledge Rep, and that's a huge job. So thank you. Mentorship and sponsorship are vital ways to promote equity, and thank you for your work in that area. I've also personally appreciated that when I'm online, you always make eye contact with me, which is great because it's easy to forget in our new world of having online that there is someone out there. And thank you for being intentional about including me and modeling for the community that there's somebody out there too. Thank you. And so just thank you for all of your focus on equity and much more. President Serafan, thank you for your hard work and concern for the community, from your op-ed pieces to the sustainability policy to, I know that you had a hand in the Board of Distinction and getting information over to secure that honor for all of us. And you reach through your op-ed pieces and through everything you see and you face. Sorry, I don't think that was my 3-minute timer, but I know that you do all of this in addition to your public service in the area of journalism and shedding light on injustices, and in addition to your full-time job. So it's not lost on me just how hard you work, and I really, really appreciate that. I know that you and I are occasionally on opposite sides of a vote, but I really, really appreciate how professional and respectful you always are, and what a great leader you are. Thank you. I look forward to seeing what the future holds for both of you. Thank you, Director Chu and President Serafan, and farewell.
All right, Director Watson.
Okay, I'm never going to make it in 3 minutes, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
But I am so glad that you decided to apply to join the board in 2018. I have personally learned so much from SEMA and feel it has been a privilege to work with you. You're my ideal model of selfless community service. You are the solutionary that we want our kids to grow up to be, who has found truly meaningful ways to contribute to our community while looking for nothing in return. You have done so many things to help others that we don't even hear about. I first became aware of this when I learned after the fact about the group of pro bono volunteer lawyers that you assembled to help immigrant families in the district. And nobody was even going to tell me. She just went and did it. I later came to know about your work organizing volunteer lawyers to help protect journalists so that they can do their work to bring transparency and accountability to local governments, knowing that there will be lawyers available to defend their work. And during the 2 years that you've been president here, you've led the Bellevue community through a very difficult period with grace and compassion. You led the board, community, and staff through a national superintendent search, which culminated in hiring a new superintendent who is uniquely qualified to lead the Bellevue School District and who the entire community has rallied behind. You led us through difficult decisions that ultimately resulted in fewer staff layoffs for those who work directly with students while preserving the employment of much needed mental health counselors, classroom teachers, and special needs staff. As a board member, you work to elevate student voice on the issue of pressing concern to our youth, that of climate change, working with students and their teachers to facilitate the students' ability to co-author the new Bellevue School District Sustainability Policy, and to empower students to understand how they can advocate for change that impacts their world. So I found you to be kind, warm, supportive, and you bring a lot of enthusiasm for making this world a better place. So I thank you, and I'll really miss you. Now, Christine. One of my first memories of Christine on the school board comes from before I was on the board myself. She came to several PTSA council meetings to update us on the policy work she was undertaking with Steve McConnell. This was the big 2012 policy update, that to bring policies that were woefully out of date up to speed. What an enormous amount of work. Once I was also on the school board, I remember sitting in my first policy meeting with Dawn and Christine and wondering what I had gotten myself into. So many policies to update. I'm going to need extra time. Right around the time I first joined the board, the district experienced the stress of a sports crisis at one of our local high schools, which had local news teams with TV cameras and upset parents and students flocking to our meetings. In the aftermath of all that, Christine, as board president, led us through long meetings working to come up with an understanding of what had happened and a solution to the crisis. After that, I really enjoyed working with Christine on the SEAS committee. I particularly enjoyed going with her to the meetings of various parents and community groups to bring everyone together to write an equity policy that the Bellevue community could agree on. I liked the way she kept workshopping it with various constituencies, changing a word here and a word there until she came up with a policy that most everyone could get behind. Christine has been adamant throughout the years that our policies should have accountability built in, so that we don't just wind up with a bunch of nice words on paper, but so that we also have something that really creates change. I will continue to be mindful of that going forward. I know that you've worked hard to represent us at the various WASDA meetings and to find out what's going around in the state and the region, and I appreciate all of your hard work. All right.
All right, now I'd like to invite Eva to go ahead and, do you want to just stand? Yeah. Oh, you sure?
Dear.
You're comfortable
Well,
there? Okay, go ahead.
Carolyn, following Carolyn on that. I'll be speaking about Dr. Christine Chu, and it is my pleasure and my honor to pay tribute to you, Dr. Christine Chu, who has dedicated over 12 years of her life, I believe it was more like 13, to the betterment of education in our beloved Bellevue School District. And I had the pleasure of meeting Christine more than a decade ago when her passion for education and her commitment to students led her to join the school board. Her journey began with a very simple yet powerful belief in the potential of our district to achieve extraordinary things for our kids, a belief that has driven her every action during her tenure. As you can imagine, there are numerous examples of the tremendous work and accomplishments led by Christine during her time on the board. As Carolyn just shared many of them, and one of them that I was going to speak to is the one you were talking about with the policies. So when Christine first joined the board, we had a huge collection of policies. They were in giant notebooks, and she took on this task along with Board Director Steve McConnell to meticulously review and update each policy to align with state regulations and updated laws. And I know it sounds very tedious and daunting, but Christine infused it with a sense of camaraderie and intellectual curiosity, absolutely. It was through this endeavor that Christine gained a comprehensive understanding of board policies, including those that were conspicuously absent. Which leads me to one of the hallmarks of Christine's board leadership. During her time on the board, equity and accountability became more than just buzzwords, and they became our guiding principles. She worked in collaboration with staff and community members on the development of our district's first equity and accountability policy, a testament to her unwavering dedication to serving every student. This policy has served as a model to other districts across the state and elevated the discourse of equity in education. Christine's impact goes far beyond policies and programs. For example, she highly values student voice and community engagement, not just at the superficial level, but deep engagement that brings people to the table to join in problem solving and decision-making process from the very beginning. This commitment to engagement is equity driven, recognizing that in a system such as ours, some voices are not readily heard. I've always admired Christine's ability to very thoughtfully acknowledge the Bellevue community for taking the time to share their thoughts with the board. Her expression of genuine gratitude encourages people to engage and says to the community, your voice is valued here. As I mentioned earlier, there are countless other achievements that could be highlighted, but for now, these few and a mountain of gratitude will have to suffice, all in the spirit of celebrating Christine's remarkable tenure. Christine, I've appreciated working with you over the years. You're truly a multi-talented and caring person. You always greet me by asking about my son, Max, who attended Interlake with your son. And I had the pleasure of experiencing your amazing cooking skill, something I will always envy and never achieve. And your impact on our district is immeasurable. Your passion, your dedication, and visionary leadership have left an indelible mark on the Bellevue School District.
Director Chu, we have this plaque for you. It has a, almost said hammer. It's, what do we call it? A mallet? A gavel, sorry. We have this beautiful plaque. It has a gavel on it because you were a president of the board. No, I'm sorry. It's just, anyways, we're thrilled. It says that you have served from 2010 to 2023, 13 years. And we are just so grateful for your leadership in Bellevue. And we're excited to see the ways that you're going to impact students and families and community in your future. So congratulations. Thank you for your service.
I did not prepare formal remarks because I would have written a book, so I didn't. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, not just to everyone in this room and to my fellow board members who have given me this opportunity to serve our community, but thank you to our entire community for going on this journey with me for over 13 years. I have learned a lot as I have served with you. I've certainly brought a lot of enthusiasm and ideas with me, but nowhere near the number of ideas and understandings and insights that I gained from working with everyone along the way. And there were missteps and all sorts of learnings through that. And I am deeply grateful to the entire community for the patience that they shared with me as I learned how to go about engaging and what it means to have a shared commitment to students. Because if there's nothing else that brings us all together, it is our students. We wouldn't even exist without them, and that's why we're here, and that's why we all serve, and we want to make it better for them. And sometimes we get frustrated with one another because we think you're in the way, or I'm in the way, or she's in the way, or he's in the way, but really none of us are in the way if we find a way to leverage that commitment and work together. And it's why I think as I walk away from here, there are like 5 E's that I take with me. And the 5 E's are, of course, each and every. That is our hallmark. That is how we think in Bellevue. It is each and every student. It's not those students or those students. It's each and every. And also the other E's are engaging, empowering, and educating. And the agency with the engaging and the empowering doesn't lie with just the leaders. It lies with all of us in making sure the engagement opportunities, the empowerment that we respect lies in the agency of the students and families and all those that we serve around us. So I appreciate the lessons that I was taught by all of you over the years into how to do that. And education, of course, sometimes years ago, I probably would have put that one first, but for me, the education comes third now because the engagement and the empowerment, the respect for everyone being a part of this together is what drives the relevance of the education and the utility of it. So I hope that I can continue to impact that world and the way that we all live in those spaces and in ways that are student-centered, inclusive, and participatory. But on top of that, I would say the other thing that I learned is outcomes and experiences because sometimes the thing we're driving for isn't an end result, it's the experience that you have along the way and the end result. Those things come together, and we can't discard them, but we can't get so consumed by them that we forget to engage with each other in productive ways, that we're not fighting each other to get to those outcomes and experiences, but we are collaborating to get there. And that is the place where our new board comes in, because I have great hope and great respect for the people who will be joining us, both of whom have participated in various ways in our community to date, one of whom has worked all the way through the construction of this equity policy and has been engaged with us in this work deeply and for a long time. And so I think that that level of collaborative engagement is exactly what we want to see coming onto our board. And I think that we're all going to benefit from it. And not to mention, we've got like the best superintendent in the state, maybe the country, and the best superintendent we could ever have for Bellevue in this time. And I am so grateful to have been a part of that. So thank you for the learning, for the journey, and for all that each one of you contributes every day to making this a better place for our kids. And thank you to each of my colleagues. Seema, you have given selflessly and continuously. And as Carolyn pointed out, there are so many ways that you inspire, and I know you'll continue to do that. And I hope that your regaining of your time to do that will lead to even greatest work in those spaces that you serve our community in so many ways. Thank you to all of you for your partnership and your engagement and your education. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So the partnership between superintendent and the school board president is an important one. There's so much collaborating and planning that happens between the two in order to lead the school district effectively. There has to be a lot of trust. There has to be strong communication. There has to be the shared goal of serving students, families, and staff. And in the 6 months of my first superintendency, I consider myself extremely fortunate and privileged to have had President Serafan as my co-conspirator and partnership in leadership. As I reflect on Seema's leadership, the first thing that comes to my mind is that she cares first and foremost about the person that she's with. And so the story is about working with other lawyers and taking care of kids who are undocumented, especially during that time. It does not surprise me because that's how she treats me when she comes to see me and when we meet. She's always bringing food. She brought poached salmon sushi last time she came. She brings fruit, chocolate, something to drink. I'm not sure if it's because she worries that I'm not eating well, but the fact is that she cares about me as a human being first before jumping in and talking business. Seema, I'm thankful for those small but very significant acts of kindness towards me. Seema joined the board in February 2018. In the 5.5 years that she was on the board, she helped our district kick off the strategic plan that focused on student well-being, academic excellence, and empowering students as creators of their future world. She led during what will certainly be considered one of the most challenging times in our history, the global COVID pandemic. And then as we were coming out of the pandemic, Seema stepped up as board president to help us as a community heal, recover, and then launch into a hopeful future. As board president, she accomplished so many things, a lot of which was structural in nature that the public may not have even noticed. I think having a law background, she studied all of the processes and how things worked, and then worked with the board and staff to improve those processes. She increased engagement of the whole board around policy development by moving the committee work to these Monday pre-board meetings where the whole board engages in policy work together. She facilitated board meetings with attention to improving efficiency and efficacy. She added director discussion in order to give board members more opportunity to bring up topics of choice. On the policy front, she did, as people have said, spearhead an innovative new board policy on environmental sustainability, which our board together passed last year, one of the first of its kind in the state, with environmental sustainability implications on classroom instruction, on district operations, and on the considerations for health and safety given increasing impacts of climate change. We are going to see substantial changes in our district's efforts toward environmental sustainability and stewardship, which is going to be a hallmark of SEMA's leadership here in our school district. One other accomplishment that I should also mention, as others have, is that SEMA, as the president of the board, did help facilitate a very successful nationwide search for a superintendent, where she, yes, with an amazing outcome. The process, as long as it felt, really included the voices of the community. And by listening to people and working collaboratively with the board, just making sure that the community was able to say what they wanted, not just in a superintendent, but what they wanted for the district in their future. And by doing that, they were able to select me, but then we were able to lead without skipping a beat. And so I just want to thank SEMA particularly for that. And then, since January, my announcement, SEMA has just been by my side, working with me and making sure that I was set up for every success as a superintendent. And so when people ask me how things are going and I tell them things are going amazingly well, I attribute so much of that to the leadership of SEMA, who has come alongside me and just made sure that the community was supportive and that I was supported. So with that, President Seraphin, I want to thank you for your leadership in the Bellevue School District. You have set us on an amazing path to kick off our next 100 years as a school district. Thank you. And with that, you also get a hammer. Oh, it's a gavel. Sorry about that. And it says in recognition from 2018 to 2023, President Seraphin. Yeah.
Well, I just want to start by saying I need a timer because I want to make sure I don't go over. So go ahead and put it on, George. I just want to start by saying thank you to everyone. I did write out a few things, and I don't want to go over time because I'm standing between people and refreshments. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you. It's really been an honor to be a board director. I did not know 100% what I would be doing as a board director. I really didn't. I didn't know quite what it would be like. People now call that a journey. We could call it many things, but it's definitely been quite a road, and I've enjoyed it, and I'm grateful. I want to start by just saying thank you to all the board directors up here and Dr. Aramaki, because being with you has been it's been a great experience, and I've learned a lot. I have to call out Director Chu because 13 years is such a long time. And it's when I think of my own experience and just how many changes have happened in 5 or 6 years, when I multiply that and think of 13, I mean, Obama was just president when you started. It's a long time, and I am grateful to you for what you've done for Bellevue School District. You've really left a lasting impact, and I think it's changed so many lives, and people won't forget all that you've done. So thank you. I want to just say that for me, Bellevue School District is kind of something I look at through 3 lenses. First, as a student, and I was thinking about this, and everything was sensory. I was thinking about like the excitement, the anticipation. You know, when you're a kid right before school starts, I remember that very well. I was a student at Stevenson and then Bennett, you know, picking out clothes before first day of school. I remember being very excited with my sisters when my parents would go to parent-teacher conference. Like, we were waiting to hear what they had said about us. Like, we'd wait up and be like, what did they say? What did they say? That was just everything I thought of has to do with sensory. I was thinking about the smells, like smelling my sharpened pencil, erasers. It can be culinary if you go from that to chewing on your pencils. You know, it can be sensory, it can be culinary, but all of those pencils, the books, the smell of the library, the sound of the bus and the feeling of the buses. I was thinking about all of that is so sensory as a child in school. And for me, it included like orchestra, playing violin, and then playing it with all the other instruments in an orchestra. that for me is so much of my Bellevue School District childhood as a student. It really was something I can think about and feel. As a parent, it's interesting because through that lens, Bellevue School District felt very different because I remember just that feeling of dropping your kids off and having a sense of hope as well as fear. You know, you're not sure, are your teachers and the educators going to see in your kid what you see in your kid? Will they appreciate them the same way that you do? And I was never disappointed, not as a student, not as a parent, in the sense that not only did all the teachers and the principals and everybody in the school district, I think, really see our kids, we ended up learning things about our kids through our teachers. And so that was the other lens. I think as a board director for me was, I gotta find the timer. Oh man. Okay, as a board director, I would say the most interesting thing has been like being in the back of a movie theater or in the back of a production, and you finally get to see how many people are involved in putting on education. And I think that's been really the remarkable surprise, is the complexity of running a great school district. How many teachers, principals, but others, the communications person, the tech person, the librarian, the nurse, the aide, all these people come together as a great orchestra, as a great production. And the amount of thinking, the amount of creation of plans, of meetings, of discussions, of rethinking things that have been done, wringing hands and saying we could have done that better and going back and revisiting it. One of the things Dr. Armaki said tonight was one of the things I'd written down. We wrote a vision and a mission, and in our mission, we talked about how we're a learning community. And I think that's just so true about Bellevue School District. Every year, every experience, I think we are evaluating after we learn and we improve. And Bellevue School District today is better than it was when I was a student. It's better today than it was when my kids were students. And I have no doubt that when I shuffle in as a grandparent for round 4, I know Bellevue School District will be even better than it is today. And that's because of Dr. Aramaki, because of all the people up here, because of the people who will be here soon, and all the people in the audience, as well as all the parents and the students, all of whom make us better. So I have no doubt that when I come back for round 4, hopefully as a grandparent, that Bellevue School District will continue to be a remarkable place. So I thank you. So that's it. Thank you.
Before I let you adjourn for the final time, my closing thoughts just are, this school board is the WASDA school board of distinction this year, and you can see individually how remarkable each one of these leaders is. I mean, we don't even know half of the things or a fraction of the things that they do on behalf of the district or outside of the district in their own lives. And then together, the 5 of them are just so remarkable. The things that they do for kids, the fact that they can have discourse and disagree, but still come out with priorities around student well-being, mental health, continuing the work of academic excellence, focusing on equity and accountability. Those things come out of the school board. I mean, all of the things that people love about our district, there are fingerprints from our school board on those things. And so I just want to say it is an honor to work with the 5 of them. It has been a tremendous honor to be able to work with Christine Chu and with Seema Seraphan. And with that, I just want to say thank you to them for their service, and thank you all for joining too. People in the online won't be able to see necessarily, but we have a number of people here in the audience who are here to celebrate too. And so we have some refreshments, and I'll say we've got these amazing cookies that are so delicious. And so we have that, we have some drinks, and we'd love to just have people mingle and just share stories and appreciation tonight. And with that, I will let you go ahead and adjourn.
All right, and we are adjourned. Thank you. All right. Thank you.